Good afternoon, boys and girls, and of course, Amaan and Ayaan. Thank you very much for being with us today. I think no gentleman can better imbibe the theme of our summit, ideas to agenda, intent to action, than the two gentlemen we are very proudly privileged to have with us today. And Amaan and Ayaan have been very graciously accepted to have a very interactive, interesting, and informative session with you. So they're going to just have a Q&A session. I'm going to ask them a few questions, and then I'm sure you're all clamoring to ask them a whole lot of questions, because they very happily and graciously agreed to answer for all of us. So we can start right away. I'll start with you, Ayaan. I'll actually take off from where Yashodhara left off, about not just taking it global, but keeping it local. So as the 7th generation of this huge musical lineage, the Senya Bangash School, with this responsibility and lineage behind you, what do you plan to do for the Sarod world? Any plans to teach the younger generation? What's the trajectory for you guys?
So, good afternoon. It's a great honor to be here. And before I answer the question, I'd like to say that we have a very old association with CII, I think right from 1997 when Mr. Tarun Das was part of CII. I think a whole lot of concerts happened all across India and also overseas. So some very memorable performances and events happened. So great honor to be here and a pleasure to interact with all of you. So to answer your question, I think for us, music was never a profession. It was more like a way of life, because it was something as normal to do, like it was, having food or, maybe drinking water, or when we were babies, maybe having a diaper change. I don't know. It was something as simple as that and as natural as that. Because we were fortunate that the atmosphere at home, it was just all about music, and that was the greatest wealth which we had and we still have. So that's why I think both my parents, they left no stone unturned to give us the atmosphere at home. But having said that, I think they didn't really impose the fact that we have to become professional musicians, though it was understood. It was a truth that wasn't conveyed. But again, it's been a long journey so far. And to answer your question, I think what we've tried to do over the years is to make Sarod reach out to a newer audience. Of course, my father set the standards for the instrument itself, but there was a section of music lovers, and there was an audience that perhaps was not very familiar with the sound of the Sarod or with classical music in general. So we try to reach out through experimental work, through albums, thematic, lounge albums, collaborations, all these things. But again, it's a long journey. Sky's the limit in any creative field. And, again, we're walking, trying to walk with dignity and grace, but it's a long journey. Yeah.
Any plans to teach? Sorry for putting you on the spot, but going along?
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. I think I would love to teach, but the students have to come. So, because teaching itself is a very strenuous, with all due respect to all the teachers, because it is, end of the day, it is a responsibility that you take upon yourself. And when people get to know that an XYZ is so-and-so student, like, if people like my father, Ustad Amjad Ali Khan, or tabla maestros like Zakir Hussain ji and other great musicians have students, and they can't perform very well, it goes on to the teacher, that what has the teacher really taught him. So it's something in my mind. I in fact have few young, 3-4 boys and 1 or 2 girls who are following me at concerts, and they want to learn, and I keep telling them that I'm still learning, so wait till I finish. But it's just that I think even teaching makes you a better musician, you get to know about your shortcomings also. Yeah.
That's right. The amount of learnings we get from our students at YI, I'm sure everybody will agree with us. So Ayaan, this is a personal question. I'm taking the liberty of Amaan. Sorry. I got so dazzled by you guys that I kind of forgot the names. Amaan, so yeah, that's a personal question to you, and I've taken the liberty of asking you that. So you're the older of the
How
two.
personal is it?
Very personal.
Sure, okay.
Very personal. You know the person you put me on to asking you this question, right? So, you know, you're the older of the two and still unmarried, much to the dismay of a large female population.
Ayaan was in too much of a rush. He jumped the line.
So, does that mean that your taste in women is as high as your taste in music? Or haven't you found the perfect person?
Definitely higher than music for sure. No, but I always say this. I don't understand. All my friends and all keep telling me, no rush, take your time. I'm like, okay, but I've always been this guy who wanted to settle down early, but it just, when you chase something, it just gets further away. That's what I've learned. But it's about being with somebody who's your well-wisher. I feel that somebody who wishes well for you, and getting married is easy, but getting married for the right reason and then being able to pull that marriage is another. I think that's the real struggle. So I'm not in a rush. Hopefully I hope I meet the right person soon.
So there's hope for a lot of us out there. He's still looking for the right person. So Ayaan, this is a question very particularly to you, and I'm sure we can all appreciate it. So you're the younger generation, the two of you in fact, in your venerable family. How do you manage to keep such a cool, hip image and yet stick to your traditions? In your music too, isn't it challenging to stick to being a purist and yet experiment with, like you yourself were saying, with a bit of new age music? How do you manage to keep the balance between both?
I think to start with, you're being extremely generous to both of us. But I think we've never really tried to create any kind of image for ourselves. I think we always wanted the work to speak for itself. And while we were doing that, perhaps good things followed. I really believe that if your work is appealing, if your work has fragrance, then it just flows, and you kind of convey that through your work, and everything around it looks nice. If you're doing something that's unappealing, if your music isn't appealing, then I think everything else looks ugly. So I think your work makes you who you are. Both visually and at all levels. And I think for us, we were extremely clear as to which path we want to take, what direction we want to take. We were very clear, both my brother and I, that we want to be known as Indian classical musicians or classical musicians. And of course, having said that, it didn't mean that we were staying away from doing any kind of experimentation. We've performed with orchestras, with various symphonies, with many electronic artists as well. But we were very clear that if concerts were happening, if we were having, say, 10 concerts, out of which 8 should be classical concerts, and the other 2, or maybe other few, could be concerts where we are doing some kind of a collaboration or some kind of experimentation. Because I think end of the day, a collaboration is beautiful, but it doesn't create a new tradition. I mean, that's why today, if I am to hear jazz or if I am to hear Western classical music, I would hear it from a culture that kind of has mastered it for many years. And of course, we have fabulous artists of all cultures and genres in every country now. But this is what I think we can do at our creative best. And this is who we are, end of the day. So, of course, experimentation is good. It's almost like a musical flirtation. But the moment you have to play that one classical concert, I mean, we do solos as well, not just duets. That is when we sleep properly at night. That when you can actually play something that has gone on for so many generations in the Indian classical music world. It's a timeless legacy that we are very fortunate in India to have, and the evolution, started, during with Nad Brahma, as they say, So spirituality and music are so closely connected in India, and that's something we really value and feel extremely fortunate to be a part of.
Would you like to? Just anything you'd like to add on that? The question was, how do you manage to project such a cool, hip image yet stick to your traditions with regards to your image as well as your music?
I think it's the upbringing, the education, going to a normal school, having friends from all different backgrounds. I had friends who were lawyers, who are now lawyers, doctors, from big business families or other, service families. Though there was Ayaan and I were the only two musicians in the school, and so that opens your whole thinking and being ourselves. I mean, it's like going to work and not getting work back home. So I don't understand, a lot of musicians are all the time dressed in kurta pajamas and as if they're just going to perform there and then. So I've never understood that. I just feel that you just be yourself, and that is work, and that's a uniform that you go on stage, and we are young people, and or costumes or whatever.
Wonderful, thanks. This is a question for both of you. It could be a bit of a cliched question, but I'm again asking you that. Of course, your respected father, Ustad Amjad Ali Khan, is both your guru and your idol, and I know that the two of you idolize your parents greatly. But apart from them, is there any role model or idol, either in the music world or beyond the music world, that the two of you have kind of...
So many of them, actually. I've never understood having one role model. I think everyone should have few role models, because there's so much to learn from everybody. Are you talking from India, or are you saying just all over? No, I have actually, the Dalai Lama is somebody who gives good messages. He's a very peaceful person. There are other musicians like Pandit Ravi Shankar ji, or in the film industry are people like Shri Amitabh Bachchan, or these are people, these are achievers, and these are people who have changed a lot of things, and to follow them and to try and be like them is amazing. Yeah, so these are the names I could think of, but there are many people I follow, surely.
So yeah, I think I agree with my brother that it's difficult to mention just one or two names or a few names, but so many people, I think especially in today's time and age, you have people from such diverse fields who are really making a mark and who are doing such fabulous work, even in the world of philanthropy, so many things. And I think our training was to not just listen to music, but then also to actually go and interact and give that respect to every artist. When we were growing up, wherever we went to attend a concert, the instruction given at home was that after the concert, go and meet the artist, take his blessings, and so that's how it was, and we used to do that. And most of the artists were mainly all my father's contemporaries, so most of them were very sweet to us. But again, it's difficult to just kind of take a few names. But one very interesting story, my brother asked Pandit Ravi Shankar, just I think a year or two before he passed away, he had come home for lunch. And in the course of lunch, he asked him that, you are this, this icon in the world of music. He said, so as a young classical musician, what do you have to do to become successful? Or to become, yeah, you said that. What do you have to do to become Pandit Ravi Shankar? So he, of course, was this very, he had a great sense of humor. He was raised in Paris, but also, he had the Banaras grooming as well, because he spent a lot of time there. So he said, "Arey bada mushkil sawal kar liya aapne." He said, "Yahi hai bas lage raho munna bhai."
I'll just add on one more thing over here. It might sound very diabetic, very sweet, very sugar-coated, But the truth is that my father has, and my mother, they both have told us one thing. And I see that in every successful person, at least in our industry, is that music can be 19 out of 20. But as a human being, if you're 20 on 20, you will not go wrong. And if you're a 21 on a 20 and a 19 on a 20 as a human being, somewhere people will not accept you. So Abba always says, like, keep, in Hindi, the way he says, Khuda kare, Bhagwan kare, कि लोगों को आपसे प्यार हो जाए. Then they'll accept what you do. But once they have an allergy, then no matter how hard you try, they will not accept you, in the creative line at least.
Well, we can see that being sons of such a shining star, they're definitely not the star-sun variety at all. Really fantastic. That was a heartwarming tale that you just told us. We'd like to open the floor to questions now, and I'll point out to the people, and you can give the mics to them. And if I can request you to keep your questions short and to the point, so they could answer that. Yes, please. Right here.
Hi, good afternoon. This is Prabhanjan from the Bangalore chapter, and
Hello.
a musician myself, a humble musician. Thank you so much. Ayaan and Amaan, thank you so much for speaking so well about music, and it's been a very pleasant afternoon.
Thank
Foremost, Ayaan, you've been also blessed with a voice similar to your Abbajan, and I think it's so nice to hear your voice actually.
Thank you.
A couple of questions rather, and I'd probably tuck them into a short question. One is, typically what we've seen in the lineage of Indian classical music is the son of a tabla maestro becomes a tabla player, and a son of or a daughter of a sitarist plays the sitar. You were two of you. You could have had a choice. And was it because it was Sarod all over the house that you probably were naturally drawn into it? Because could you have probably done something else or some other instrument or whatever else? You were two of you. One could have probably done a tabla or something else. Both of you took Sarod. That is one. Before anybody else jumps in. The other question I had is, how would you probably define, and you were almost getting there in your anecdote, how would you probably define a successful musician beyond the commercials, beyond the fame, beyond everything else? Is there a good definition for a successful musician as such? Bangalore.
I'll start with the first one, which you said was the instrument thing, the choice. Honestly, I think there was so much of Sarod all around that there was never it was not a compulsion, but there was never a choice in terms of the way Sarods were kept in the house, not the tablas and sitars were kept with that much of care. And in cases like that, I've seen what happens is if one brother does take another instrument, and over the years, and if your teacher is, let's say, a sitar player and he was learning sarod and I was learning sitar, definitely he will have this thing in his head that why didn't I not also learn sitar? Because what happens in instruments, a tabla player cannot teach a drummer after a certain point. A sarod player can teach ragas, can teach things about Indian classical music, but cannot really teach you the techniques of that instrument. Because after a certain point of your knowing music, like you know rags and you reach a point of playing, but that extra playing that comes to you is those little tips that you get from your teacher who plays the same instrument. I mean, there are very few teachers who are very lucky to have other instrumentalists under them, like people like Pandit Ravi Shankar ji, or even my father. He has produced one or two good other instrumentalists, but it's not advisable. If you're learning tabla, you learn tabla from a tabla person, not from a guy who's playing mridangam or ghatam or kanjira. So it's always better that way.
I'll answer your second question first. I think how you describe a successful musician, I think that was your question. I mean, I'll continue or rather repeat what he said. I think once people start loving you, then you're a successful musician. Because if you ask someone, how was this concert? They would just say, oh, it was sold out. No one talks about the content. And that's the level of love and affection that artists would have. That a concert has sold out months before, weeks before. It could even happen when the artist is very old, that maybe he's technically not what he was in his youth. But it's that love, it's the association. You see, it's the entire relationship you build with the audience. I mean, we are very fortunate today that, people have showered a lot of love and affection on us. But it's a relationship which has happened over many generations. When we go and perform, some very senior person would come, oh, we heard your grandfather in the same festival and you're performing. So it's an emotional connect. But again, if people love you, then you're successful.
I'd like to just add one line. Because, to be very honest, we're very fortunate that we are Ustad Amjad Ali Khan Saab's sons. There are many other very talented young musicians in Sarod, Sitar. And if Ayaan and I were not Abba's son, whatever little we have got today, it would have taken us another 20 years to get to this point. I can't take that away. It's that is the truth. But being his son and getting all the facilities that helps you to become who you are or where you headed, it becomes more difficult because the responsibilities are higher, and it is more difficult.
And now there are a lot of institutions also that are teaching instruments, music, everything. But if anyone wants to take up any craft, any instrument as a profession, then you have to go to a teacher and learn the way it was done. Of course, now you have online classes and all kind of things. It's very convenient. It's convenient if you have a passion for music. It's convenient if you want to learn to play an instrument. But if you want to make this into your profession, then that blessing quotient, the interactive quotient, the touch, feel, ground reality, all those things really matter in this craft.
Yeah, I think.
This is Hetal Thakkar from YI Ahmedabad chapter. It's been a very reflection afternoon as Mala dragged a bit of equilibrium with questioning from to Amaan. My question is, at a given point of time, what would be your ideal, as you have been global trotters, ideology to guide the youth to adopt and stay focused and initiate a global view for a radial progress?
I couldn't hear properly. I'm so sorry. If you can.
The last part.
Sorry,
The
I
last
couldn't
part
hear.
of the question could not be
At a
heard.
given point of time, what would be your ideology to guide the youth to adopt and stay focused on a global view for their radial progress?
Whenever I get an opportunity or a chance to put my thoughts across to the youth, I always tell them, see, what I have followed is blind faith to start with on your parents. Though I've not been the nicest kid, I've given them a lot of stress and.
That's hard to believe.
But I still do. But I do believe, to start with, first is to focus and believe on your parents' teaching. Their views are very important, because no parent, I think, will misguide their children. They can go wrong because no one's God, but the intention is very pure. Not get affected by what others are doing, but believe, even if you're not that good at your whatever you do, if you're in sports, music, in service or wherever you're studying, do not compete with anyone, compete with yourself always. Do not criticize people, because I don't think God likes that. Because whatever is in front of you is His doing. I'm a spiritual person, because that's why I believe in all of these things. I feel that when I see somebody very successful and I see him and I'm like, wow, I want to be like him. I try and not feel, I don't want to get jealous, because what happens that takes you on a different path. Then you don't become, your thoughts are not pure, and then you start competing with others, and that is where I think people somewhere lose focus. I mean, if you want to.
See, I think again to answer your question, there's no formula or answer that is kind of timeless, because I think everyone's story, everyone's journey is extremely individualistic, very different. But yes, of course, the few things which my brother just said is the fact that, respect your parents, respect your teachers, keep your eyes and ears open, be observant, adapt the best, edit your life, edit whatever you've learned. It's like your experiences are like grocery shopping, but what you finally cook and put in the dish is what you do with your life. That's how I look at it. So I think when someone asks me today that I want to be a musician, I want to be an artist, whatever, I mean, the most logical thing for me is to say, of course, keep the passion going, but finish your education. Because at the end of the day, any creative field is a little uncertain. I'm not saying to have backup plans, because then you can't give 100% to your passion. But again, you should at least finish your basic education. And of course, just have faith in yourself. Don't blame your parents. Don't blame your teachers. And you have to just, I think life itself is a journey. It's an experience. And you have to, kind of inculcate all of that into your code of conduct, into your life, and into how you move forward. I think that's pretty much what I would say.
Wow, I hope you both have realized you've just endeared yourself to a whole room of parents sitting over here. And I hope our young members from Pune heard that. Did you guys hear that? The ones who are not yet parents? It's wonderful, guys. So, yeah. Yeah. There's one here, and then after that, we'll come to you. Yeah.
Well, it is said, if music be the food of the soul, play on. And as you Amaan just touched upon that point of spirituality and music. Is spirituality the external expression of music, and how are both closely related, and if they are related at all? I'd like to believe that they're related. You just cannot be a good artist without being a good person.
It's very important to be, for a musician, at least the way we have been brought up, to be God-fearing. No matter if I practice for 6-7 hours before a concert, what you do on that platform when thousands of people are watching you is actually not really under your control. That you're there 60%, technically you're there, musically you're there, but there are other things that help you excel. Having a good audience, your sound, your instrument, other things that add up and bring you really out there. There was a time when on stage, when you're performing, you're very aware of what you're doing. But now, I have thousands of miles to go before I can even get near my father. But now, when I'm performing, I'm blank. I do not see anybody. I do not connect with anyone. It's just, it's funny. I think sometimes you are ahead of the moment because you know what you're doing and where you have to take the concert. So there is a lot of spirituality connected to, especially to Indian classical music, especially because this music has come out from folk music and from the temples back in history. And if you see music, any spiritual places you go, you will hear music to start with. That's the first thing.
Yeah, I think we had a lady over there, and we'll have one more question after that with you. Yeah.
Hi. Okay, as a child, all of us, we go through, from school to college, we go through different phases of listening to, we listen to pop, we listen to metal, we listen to hip hop. So as a child, did you go through this conflict, while you were shaping your own careers?
Even now, we listen to Moby and Elton John, Brad Adams, Paul Oakenfold, the trans guy, Nusrat Fateh Ali Khan Sahab, Mika Singh, love it all. Love it all.
So when you relax,
That's his playlist.
Okay. And how about yours?
Well, no. See, I think the good thing is that when we were growing up, my father didn't impose on us as to what we should listen and not listen. I mean, of course, he was very open to us listening to everything back then. All these, we all grew up with, all these groups back then of whatever my brother mentioned. But the thing is that the main thing was, I think, whatever we listened to, also kind of, it was a learning experience for us. I mean, of course, some music was just for relaxing, but we kind of learned a lot from all genres of music that we were listening to back then. And since you asked this question, I'd like to plug in our second book that we had written. It was called 50 Maestros, 50 Recordings, which was published by HarperCollins. That book, it's pretty much was the music we listened to when we were growing up. It had 50 names of musicians from both the North Indian and South Indian genres of classical music, and pretty much the founders of the field as what it is today. That book came with a CD which had tracks of all those people. Yeah, so apart from that, we were listening to everything that India was listening to.
Last question over here, please.
Well, in continuing with the question, don't you think that the classical music is fading away due to the new music coming up? Like you said, the Mika, the Honey Singh and all. The youth, especially the youth, are getting faded away by this classical music.
This is a very nice question because the same example can be used in ghazals. You had Mehendi Hasan Sahab or Jagjit Singh Ji. Now, audience is never to be blamed, I personally feel, because audience is observing, they are accepting. Sadly, the performers are not there. There was a batch of musicians, even before my father, but my father's batch was Pandit Shiv Kumar Sharma ji, Pandit Hari Prasad Chaurasya, my father, Ustaz Zakir Hussain, Pandit Ravi Shankar ji. These are stars. They were, because of them, I think these people somewhere were created for people like us, that we can copy and we can get inspired, and because of them, by trying to play music like them, we have a great lifestyle. So sometimes I sit back and think, wow, these are great people. Because of them, so many people are having a good life because we try to copy their music and whatever. The problem is after that generation, there have not been any, there are names which are great, but in the music industry, they are great. It's not come across to the common man. People who, let's say, do not listen to Indian classical music, back then knew of people like Pandit Shiv Kumar Sharma, Zakir Hussain, my father, and many other musicians. Abhi, there is a problem. What is happening? That those names are not coming out. In ghazals also, you have many ghazal singers, but those stars are not coming out. Like you have Jagjit Singh Ji was there, or the Bade Ghulam Ali Khan Sahab was there, or Talat Aziz Ji. So I think performers are to be blamed, people like us, more than the audience. Audience is there.
But having said that, I'd also like to mention that this generation of performers in every field, be it in the film industry, classical music industry, ghazals, whatever, I think they've been so fortunate to get the benefits of the entire musical journey of that entire generation. Today, you're a click away from, hearing the works. You punch in anyone's name, you'll have some thousands of YouTube videos of any artist. You can see their techniques, you can hear their journey and everything. So the quality of performers today, even the quality of singers, it's fabulous. Sometimes all these reality shows, if you even hear some of the young children singing, it's unreal. I don't think children were singing like this 50 years ago. Either we didn't have reality shows then or they weren't. Because these people are very fortunate to have kind of got the ready-made material and imbibe it. So you have good performers today, but again, like my brother said, I think we are looking for idols, we are looking for people to kind of make a mark, or people to connect with. I think that once the people start loving X, Y, Z performers, I think the craft is back in action as well.
Great. I'm really
I have a last question.
I'm really sorry we've run out of time. You can ask the question right.
Trust me. This is for Ayaan. Ayaan, I'm Ravisha from Bhopal. I know you have twins. So, like, what's the atmosphere like home? Are we seeing the 8th generation coming? Like,
Before Ayaan answers that serious question, I want to answer. All my life, I've been telling people that this Amaan, Ayaan, Sita, Gita, Love Kush, we are not twins.
I hope you all knew that.
We're not twins. I'm 2 years older than him. And the day he had twins, I said, Gaya ye to. Now it's confirmed that we are also twins.
Well, atmosphere of home right now, a lot of music because they're only 2.5. A lot of staying up late at night, especially for my wife because my profession requires me to travel a lot. But when I'm at home, I mean, I try to give all the time that I can. But of course, they do have their little sarods. But again, no pressure. They are, they're free to do what they want. But with the way the grandfather and the uncle are going with them right now, I see them playing the sarod very soon.
Thank you, everyone. I hope you'll be around to share a few more. People are very interested.
No,
to
sure,
ask you
please. Yeah,
questions.
yeah.
I thought a simple thank you would not suffice for musicians of your genre. So I've written some few lines in poetry, very, very basic, childish poetry. So this is for you, Amaan.
Thank you.
Precision and tunefulness, bold and resonant strokes. Amaan, you are an inspiration for all young folks. With your virtuosity, sheer brilliance, and charismatic presence, you continually enchant audiences across continents. For Ayaan. Confidence, clarity, consistency, and technical mastery, Ayaan, you learned at your father's knees. Your approach, vision, and versatility make you an icon. You won the hearts of millions with your vision. We are indeed fortunate to have you both here with us today. Thank you for sharing with us your own family way.
And I'd like to thank Mala ji for her generous words and the beautiful way she conducted the entire session. Thank you.